Greetings, nerds. This is Scene and Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well, Sarah. Hope you're having a good one. Looking forward to kicking off our brand new segment that we're finally getting around to. Uh, what we've been watching, and this, of course, is going to be Wicked. But and then, of course, I know we're talking Peacemaker as well. So, which one do you want to jump into first?
I thought I told you like 2 minutes before we started.
I know, but I was just, I know sometimes you may change your mind at the last minute, so I just figured I'd give a dealer's choice.
So I'm so confused. I'm so confused right now. Yeah, we're gonna start off talking Wicked, Elphaba, a young woman ridiculed for her green skin, and Glinda, a popular girl, become friends at Shiz University in the land of Oz. After an encounter with the wonderful Wizard of Oz, their friendship reaches a crossroads. Will It's been out for almost a year, and we finally got around to it. What are your thoughts about this movie?
um, you know, I I liked it. I mean, it was overall I liked it. It definitely, I haven't seen the musical, so I was going into this cold as far as not having the musical to compare to the live action film. Um, as far as the runtime though, I will say that the part one um was of Wicked is exactly the same as the whole musical as far as the stage production. But also I guess I being that we're watching it a year later, and also it wasn't like when if folks watched it when it was first released, not being aware of the whole part one, part two, which a lot of films have been doing this recently. I know. Seems like 2024 was the big year of that with like for another big movie was I think Mission Impossible did that as well. So, so but overall, I enjoyed it. Thought there were some spaces where it could have been tightened up a little bit, but um, but the parts that really did soar and that were very memorable did really stick out to me, and um, I really look forward to just talking with you about those 2 points tonight during our discussion, as well as just overall themes of the film and stuff.
Yeah, I think this is obviously a solid musical, but and it's not an okay movie. It's a fine movie. I think it's a better musical than it is a movie itself.
Mhm.
I can only imagine what the theatrical production would have been like, especially with the original cast. Um, and and the performances really sold the entire thing for me.
Yeah.
But I guess you were kind of hinting at it. What are a theme or a standout moment that you want to deep dive into?
Yeah, well, I think as far as the themes, I mean, this as far as for context, the book was written, I guess, about 30 years ago now, around the early 90s, and then it was, developed into a stage play. And, some of it's obviously is giving the story from the perspective of the Wicked Witch of the West. And that was, I think that the book that was the title. It was like the life and times of the Wicked Witch of the West, and so it was interesting. Interesting to see the story told from her perspective. Of course, when the movie starts out, it does pick up right at the end of the Wizard of Oz. We see. I was wondering about whether or not where because as it started, I was like, I wonder if we'll get any you know moments with Dorothy and Scarecrow, Tin Man, and the Lion, of course, and we do. In the first 5 minutes, we see them walking down the yellow brick road from her castle. So so as far as like themes and stuff, then we get launched right into Glinda, uh, you know, basically sharing that, yeah, I did know the Wicked Witch, and you know, it gets into sort of springboards into this whole discussion as far as, you know, are people born wicked, or is wickedness thrust upon them? And that was something that, you know, was a sort of overarching theme as the story unfolded, that was very apparent throughout the film, especially from the moment she was Elphaba was born, to the end of the first part, as far as like just sort of seeing that journey, as far as how she, you know, sort of the origin story of the Wicked Witch of the West.
What was your favorite song from the movie?
Defying Gravity.
Defying it, yeah. I mean, and you've heard it before, right?
Actually, you know, so I heard it in the trailers, but you know, because again, I've never seen the stage
But you've
production,
never
so
seen clips or anything?
no, I really
Oh.
went into, yeah, I really went into this cold. You know, I've seen obviously The Wizard of Oz. I just you know, I think I told you a couple weeks ago I saw The Wiz, which was the
Mhm. Yeah.
uh another adaptation of this, you know, in the universe. But I've never seen Wicked. I've never seen The Great and Powerful, so Oz. So this was, I was really going in cold with this film. You know, hadn't even heard any of the songs even.
That's crazy to me
Yeah,
because
after all these years. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I've heard Defying Gravity, the first time was on Glee, and
Mm,
then right when this movie came out on TikTok,
okay.
clips from the, original stage performance,
Hmm.
were released, and I watched Defying Gravity as well as, Popular.
Okay.
Those were the two big ones. So I almost feel like Popular's my favorite one just
Mm.
because it got stuck in my head. But I did start singing along to Defying Gravity just when it hits the chorus.
Mm.
So I think it the and we were talking about this last week too because we did another musical. The musicals, it's really dependent on how catchy and how how well done the
Hmm.
vocals are with the music, and it just every time they broke out into song, it yeah, it was Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, like just killer vocal powerhouses.
Yeah,
um, and it was everything when they were singing.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I will say at first, whenever we were first introduced to Glinda with Ariana Grande's first song, it it
Mhm.
actually it actually did not work for me. It actually kind of, her higher register, because I know you know, she's like what, 4 octave register or whatever, you know, her, the high level of it just did not, it just kind of, it didn't work for me. I don't know
Mm.
what it was. It did, I will say it did take me a moment to get into this film. I don't know if it was just because of, yeah, I, I don't know what it was. It
I'm the
I,
opposite, and
yeah.
I think a lot more people are on your side where I was in. Not necessarily from the first number, because I was kinda like, "Okay, okay, I get it, let's get into the story now."
Mm,
But especially when we heard, I don't remember all of the pieces in order, so God forgive me, but what really stands out is The Wizard and I.
mm,
Um, that one that, Cynthia Erivo delivers, and, like, I was in it from there.
mm.
And, um, what then towards the end, I actually I actually was kinda just like, "Can we just jump into Defying Gravity?" Like, can we just like, come on, come on. We're like wrap it up.
Hmm.
It waned on me towards the end because it was just getting like, okay, now we're gonna create the flying monkeys, okay. And I understand like she's a good person and all of this is just like wickedness is thrusted upon her. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
go figure. A story about this person. But um I so it's interesting. I don't know why. I guess sometimes it's just interesting that that was the first thing you said to me after watching it. Like it picked up towards the end for you, and I was like, the complete opposite. Um,
Yeah.
and and that's okay that Ariana's singing might have not initially worked. I thought it was great from initial, but it was really what caught me off guard was how funny she is.
Yeah. Now she does have good comedic chops. I will say that.
And I don't know, and I don't want to discredit anything she did because I, she was nominated for an Oscar. But I will also say while watching it, because it was long, I don't think it needed to be that long, but it
No.
is significantly long, and it's part 1 of 2. Um, I kept thinking about how Kristen Chenoweth,
Hmm.
um, was she played Glinda in the original stage production, and so and Kristen Chenoweth is hilarious.
Hmm.
So so it's kind of like, okay, you this part is meant to have those comedic beats. Now, granted, it takes us only a few people could probably do that and do that well because arguably I was never really annoyed with Glinda. I be maybe and maybe it's because the clips I had seen, like with Defying
Hmm.
Gravity, I'm like, I know they're gonna be friends, so I don't
Yeah.
really care. I mean, some of the lines that Glinda delivers are my favorite lines, are the only lines that I really remember. And it started when they were writing the letter, and she's like,
Mm.
"Dear Mom and Dad, guess what happened? I don't hear you guessing because this is a letter." And then the whole evolution of her name, like
Hmm.
Ga and Glyn,
Yeah.
and then we got Belinda in there as well. And there were just so many moments with her where but at the same time, towards the end with Glinda, um, she's left behind, right?
Yeah.
She's
Right.
she's arguably captured, and I kept thinking through most of this movie about how, what really struck me in the opening sequence was she there were moments of like, "This is wrong," but for a majority of the time, it was like, "Yes, I'm going along with this. The Wicked Witch is dead, and who shall weep for the wicked?" Whatever that
Hmm.
song said, whatever those lyrics are.
Yeah.
And there were cracks, but it also felt like it was like there was a trance, and at moments it was breaking through. So I'm still a little bit hazy on where she sides with everything. If I don't know if I'm articulating anything right now, so go ahead and
No.
jump
No.
in.
Yeah. No. That. No. I think that's to me that was so. That's where the length I think, and some people were like, well, I've seen some of the discussion about the length of the film, and part of it was to where in the stage production, and again, I haven't seen the stage production, but with the theatrical release, allowing, I guess, with John Chu letting things breathe and these moments, resonate. I think that uh, y- yeah, I think that's what made it hard for me to get into it because I just felt like at the beginning, especially whenever Glinda was in Munchkin Land and
Mhm.
they were with all the exposition and the song and everything about what happened, it just it, it I don't know, it just seemed over long to like yeah to like after she was like does admit that they were friends and started telling Elba the story. Yeah, it felt yeah, it just felt kind of like there was no emotional resonance for me.
Mhm.
So where I was feeling very vested in this in the character in any of the characters in the story, it was just like, and maybe maybe that's where sometimes musicals when they get translated to film, you know, when you watch something like this on the stage, something a story like this really works because there is that emotional connection between the actors on stage and the music in the amphitheater or in the performing arts center, um, that you just have that real human connection. And maybe it's because I had just watched The Wiz just a few weeks earlier that when I was watching Wicked, it was just like, oh, here we have CG Glinda and we got this story here, and I just felt like it was just showing stuff, but I didn't feel like it wasn't.
There was a
Yeah,
lot of telegraphing.
yeah,
There was far
yeah,
too much telegraphing for my
yeah,
liking, and I think that's your point about the length of specifically that opening number, like, that did go that number in particular could have been
yeah,
cut down. I think you needed some of it, but it went on and you're just like, "Okay, we get it. Uh-huh.
yeah,
All
yeah,
right. Are we
hmm
done? No? No? We're still
yeah,
going. Okay."
yeah,
So, like, that to me, that felt like an extra 40 minutes. It was not necessary. And I think that arguably when you could have told the story, the upbringing story a little bit more differently than
mm,
in previous things that we've seen. I think that that was like exposition dump and then moving on, and so I completely understand where you're coming from with how it takes a while, and especially with some of the coldness.
yeah,
I
yeah.
do like
That's
that
it.
we
Yeah,
yeah, the coldness of it. I don't know if it's always a struggle with that adaptation, and I'm just gonna say one of my favorite movies of all time. I own it. I had the CD on repeat when it first came out, Chicago.
mm,
I have seen Chicago perform live on Broadway, but I I watched that movie as a kid and I just became obsessed with it.
hmm
And I even seen the a live performance of it. Like, sometimes it matters what do you see first, maybe?
hmm yeah,
And maybe you're right, it has to do like, you had an amazing theater experience, so to come into this, you're kind of, like, a little bit more critical of it, which is
yeah,
great. But then I think last week, I mean, for all intents and purposes, K-pop Demon Hunters is a musical.
yeah. It is.
So, but it's not an adaptation from a Broadway play.
Yeah, yeah. I
They
mean,
did
isn't it?
try to do some kind of K-pop play one time. It did not go well.
Did I'm sure it didn't. Yeah, yeah. I mean, but this, yeah, because I mean, this is at least I know this is like a story because I'm thinking about other. I don't want to get too deep. Well, other like famous musicals that have been. adapted into film. I mean, I think like Phantom. I've seen both versions, and I would say, and I think I actually saw the theatrical version of Phantom before I actually saw the stage version. But I still prefer the stage version. I think there's just something about certain musicals that it's just, they really are, the power of them really do resonate on stage. It's just
I
very
I
hard for
com-
them to get translate to screen.
right, right. I maybe it's also just going to see a Broadway play, much less a actual musical performance, not a lot
Mhm.
of options where
Yeah.
I live and where I grew up. So another famous musical that when I grew up, we would rent at least once a year, I kid you not, and would keep that movie for a full week, memorize the lines, memorize the dance numbers and everything, is Newsies.
Mm.
Love that one. I didn't
Hmm.
it took me I'll be I'm okay with admitting this. It took me a very long time, actually too long of a time to make the connection that that was Christian Bale. Like my childhood crush was turned in Christian Bale and I was like, "What is happening?" Um or Anastasia.
Hmm.
I don't know, like there's a lot of movies that are
Yeah.
musicals. Some are adapted from Broadway plays, some are not, that I for because I see it in on the screen first, I don't have that connection to a theater performance of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I completely understand why if you go to theater and it's just and then you compare and contrast, it's like reading a book.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It
The
is.
the book is never gonna be or the movie's never gonna be good as the book, especially if you read the book first.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, again, I think, I think one of the, getting back to Wicked, and I think some of the places where I think the um at it where it was good to let things breathe was, for
Mhm.
example, as I mentioned at the start, there were like two scenes that really just two that really worked and just resonated with me, where I definitely was just locked in. And the one, of course, is the ballroom sequence, where, to your point about, where does Glinda and Elba Elphaba,
Oh, that was the
where
middle.
yeah, no, but it was really in the middle where I finally like got
Yeah.
locked in on this film.
Yeah, that's where I figured it was
Yeah,
the turning point for
yeah,
you because you knew yeah, you don't know a lot about this musical, but you knew that they would ultimately become friends to an
yeah.
extent. So to and that was just brave of them to not have any music playing during that
Hmm.
whole
Yeah,
sequence.
yeah,
Um
yeah.
yeah, it didn't hit me as hard as you, but yeah.
No, yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, I think, I'm glad, and I didn't know what it was that was about it, but now that you said it, the fact that there was no music,
Mhm.
that's what did it. I think it was just like, it was just a very, and again, I haven't seen the stage production, so if it's the same way in the stage production, folks, if you're listening or watching this on YouTube, let me know. But but that silence, and then just and then just the choreography of the dance, and just seeing the reactions of the other students there, and then it was just so powerful, that really just in that moment just really captured exactly what this story to me was about.
Well,
And
yeah, yeah, the need for acceptance and
yeah, Yeah,
and belonging,
and
and
belonging. Yeah.
like I think not only it worked because there was no music or it was complete silence, but also that really allowed Cynthia Erivo to act through her eyes,
Yes.
and you felt the heartbreak, and it was to have that counterbalance with Glinda, who finally got what she wanted and realizes that it's all thanks to Elphaba, and so then her heart starts breaking in reaction to everything,
Hmm.
and yeah, it's a very beautiful moment. It's
Hmm.
very it, you have that moment, and then later on you get the moment between Elphaba and Fiero,
Yeah.
which leads into the the teenage girl in my heart. One of my favorite songs. But she's not that girl, but I'm not that girl. I was just like, this is classic. Essentially what the director did was he took Wicked and made the Mean Girls version of it.
Yep.
Which is ironic because Mean Girls became a stage play after the movie.
Maybe. Yep. Yep. Yeah.
um Man, but I liked a lot of that. Were you at all surprised that it was Oz behind, or the wizard behind, the what was happening with the animals?
No.
No. Yeah.
No.
Because that was a thread I knew nothing about going into this. I was even surprised. I was like, "I
Hmm.
know that voice." And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's Peter Dinklage.
Yep.
What he doing here?" And I think I had a moment where I was like, "Oh, I bet Oz is behind that." And then yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as far as odds, and then of course, uh, uh oh gosh, I'm blanking on her character's name.
Madame
Madame
Morrible.
Morrible. Yeah. Madame Morrible. Yeah. Um, yeah. Those two. So, I mean, Jeff
I
Goldblum's
forgot
Oz.
he was playing it.
Yeah, I just kept seeing. I mean, I don't know if it's just Jeff Goldblum just he has an effect. And I just felt like he was like it was just like the same character he was playing in Guardians, in Thor.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
yeah, and it's just sort of like, okay, I could it took me out of it a little bit.
Oh, it
Um,
did not for me.
yeah, I mean, it's
I
just
mean,
goofy. Yeah,
just because at this point, Goldblum will always just be playing a version of Jeff Goldblum.
yep,
I'm sorry, he cannot. He's there. It's like, oh, that's Jeff Goldblum. Good for him.
yeah.
Did I like it when he started doing a little singing? No, no, that
No.
was unnecessary. But yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, but to the earlier point, yeah. I mean, given what all we know about Oz, and have got and he, but we see at the end of the Wizard of Oz itself, and everything, and of course, they had the nice little tie-in to with the evil looking wizard and all that kind of stuff. I was just like, oh yeah, it's definitely, he's definitely behind what's going on with the animals and stuff, and I guess that's part of the thing too, as far as the some of the allegory that with the Wizard of Oz, and the period that is written in, because again, um I think with the book, the original book, as I said, it was written in the early '90s, so I think the author was really trying to get into issues of of Saddam Hussein, and then of course there was some Oz itself was sort of a with with going on with the animals and stuff. I mean, it was kind of authoritarian, just kind of vibe that was going there as far as like the other and the right people and those kind of things. So so yeah, I mean, so those were the really cool moments. Like as I said, after I got locked in, really that last hour and 20 minutes or so, I was really locked in. Whereas the first half, I was kind of like I was watching it, but like not really engaged.
Yeah.
But when I had a story, when I felt like it was really getting into the real guts and heart of the story, that's when I felt like the emotional stuff was really popping off. And then when they were realizing what was going on with the animals, and like whenever Peter when when Peter Dinklage's character was Dr. Dillamon was being taken away, that's when I was just like, okay, yeah, now now I'm feeling the depth of the story. Whereas before,
Mhm.
I just didn't really. It was probably there, and it was just like I just didn't, maybe it just took me a little bit longer to get to it. But once I did, I was just like, oh yeah, I like this. I really like this story, even though, you know, God bless. I mean, I can't sing work or lick. You know, I was actually really surprised that Michelle Yeoh could carry it, could sing a little bit. I did not see that coming. I don't know how much it was auto tuned or what, but she did a pretty decent job.
They all were auto-tuned.
Well, not Cynthia, not Ariana. I think
Ah,
they no, they apparently
I know
they
they
like
can
actually
sing. I know they can sing.
apparently
I know that.
apparently
But auto-tune
yeah,
doesn't mean what everyone thinks auto-tune means.
yeah.
But that's
Yeah, but
a
they
whole other
yeah.
discussion.
Well, it was apparently I think they did actually sing their songs on the stage. So, well, I mean, like when they were actually filming the scenes and stuff. So, but
Oh, then they did something in post because it did
yeah,
not
yeah.
it was
Oh yeah, I'm sure they
yeah,
did. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I'm sure they cleaned it up for sure. But
Right, right. That's
yeah,
what auto-tune does.
yeah.
Um, okay. So, and not to go into any theory spirals or any give any spoilers, but if
Mm,
you don't want to know anything about the next movie, then please fast forward through this part. It'll take like 5 minutes. It's just something I need to get off my chest. So last year when I said I'm not going to theater to watch this movie, I did get spoiled with a few things.
mm,
And apparently um there are theories, and I have no idea how much of this is not theory. No, it's because people know actually what does happen to these characters.
mhm,
But like characters like Bach and Fierro are going to become the characters that we know from The Wizard of Oz.
mhm,
Yeah. So then my question is, okay, so a lot of the time I was watching the movie, I was trying to pick up clues as to who's becoming who.
yeah.
Um, and the one that gave me, I'm pretty sure Fiero's gonna become Scarecrow.
Mm,
Because, like, the Scarecrow, "If I Only Had a Brain,"
yeah.
and in his song, Fiero's song, he's like, "Who cares about thinking? No need to
Mhm,
think, I'm just dancing through life, la 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 la." I think Bach could be the lion, and I don't know who the Tin Man will be. I don't know that,
let's see.
but there's also part of me is like, Fiero could honestly represent all 3 of them in different capacities too,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Well, the one place where where I was just like maybe some foreshadowing was when Fiero and Elphaba were, whenever they were at the rescued the little lion. I thought,
Mhm.
given that whenever we saw at the beginning of the film, the lion was actually like a lion. Usually like in other adaptations, usually he's always up on 2 feet instead
Yep.
of like so I was thinking that that little cub was going to actually that they rescued
Yep.
there was going to actually be end up being, because just the way it was reacting and everything, I was just like, oh yeah, that makes total sense why it's like the little cowardly lion, especially
Yeah,
given.
and it doesn't like it's not speaking, but
Mhm.
we know in the Wizard of Oz, the Cowardly Lion does speak.
Right. Right.
So
But because of all the other things that were going on as far as, what the wizard was, prohibiting the animals from being, being taught and being teachers and, barring all
yeah.
those things, I was
Hmm.
just like, okay, that makes sense why, he's so cowardly and stuff, because he's so afraid if he uses his voice, he's going to end up dead or whatever. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that was my thought, where I was going with that, my theory spiral. The
Yeah.
Bach
Then
and Fierro.
Bob could easily be the Tin Man then.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you could put them in a few. It's just we know they're going to become some.
Mm,
I'm pretty sure they're going to become one of them.
yeah,
Those characters are significant, and how those characters come to be, I think, is just as important to how the rest of Elphaba's story is told.
yeah.
So,
And then, yeah, then of course, Nessa Rose, she becomes the other wicked witch of the east.
well, now you're
Um,
just giving everything away, Will.
well, if you want, I mean, yeah, I mean, well, I mean, I do, well, I won't say how the story got to that point, but so I'll save that for folks who may not know. I do know, I did get spoiled about why that all went down. But
Well,
also,
I did not, so don't tell me.
I'm not gonna say a word. I'm not gonna say a word. I will say though, one, the one change from the book to both the stage and film was, Nessa. When in the book, actually, she did not have arms, but because of just trying to, when they translated it to stage and screen, they they gave her the disability of being, in a wheelchair instead,
Hmm.
which was pretty interesting thing. And as I was doing a little bit of prep, getting ready for our discussion tonight, I was like, oh, that was I can understand why they made that change.
Oh,
I just wanted
absolutely. That would
clarification.
be
Yeah,
terrifying.
yeah,
That'd
um,
be a lot.
yeah.
All right. Well, that concludes Wicked. Maybe if and when someday we will see Wicked Part 2, maybe. And that brings us to Peacemaker season 2, episode 2, A Man Only as Good as His Bird. Economist gets a new handler, Flurry, after failing to distract Flag from Peacemaker, while Adebayo, I said it right,
Hmm.
deals with Kia issues, and Peacemaker handles dimensional aftermath as Argus acts. Okay, IMDb, get your shit together because this is horribly structured. My God. Some days
Yeah.
you know when it's well written, and I just zoom right through it. And then you know when it's kind of like, what am I saying right now? What is happening?
Yeah. Well,
Will, what did you think about this episode?
it was, this was a episode where it was like, slow everything down. Let's just, set. We're really going to be setting the table for the rest of the season. So we had to introduce a few more characters. In this episode, we do get Flurry, played by Tim Meadows. We of course, we knew about Rick Flag Senior, and we get the whole Flash. He really pushes to see the file to find out what
Mhm,
happened to his son.
mhm,
So we do get, a little bit more context for why he is so, hell bent on tracking Peacemaker and all. Um, and then also, and again, we just go further into our primary characters, as far as, why they are feeling the way that they are. And yeah, and of course, why, we are going to see if the grass is greener on the other side of the one of the 99 doors for Chris, as the season unfolds.
So so you're sugarcoating it. I don't I'm not I'm a little bit perturbed by this episode just because it felt like, okay, so we're not taking any step forward. Got it.
Mm.
And it just felt like a lot of the same reminders. Hardcore doesn't have a job. Okay, reminder, reminder. Peacemaker really wants a relationship with Hardcore, and that ain't gonna happen. They're not at the same place right now. And reminder, Adrian Chase has no friends. No. But the saving grace for me really was, and I can see how this character, you either like this character and therefore you give this episode kind of a pass, or you don't. Um, it's Flurry. Just because from the moment Tim Meadows comes on screen and makes economists really uncomfortable with that back rub,
Oh gosh, yeah.
while while degrading one of his friends,
Yeah,
sexualizing one of his friends, and hey, I'm just gonna make you uncomfortable and give you this back rub.
yeah.
I love how that was a direction, just because I watched the after show that
Mhm.
James Gunn gave, and he wasn't on set the full time, but he just randomly gave that. And then bird blindness.
Yeah,
I love that joke. I love that it kept going, and I love that Eagly stuck up for himself and demanded respect and to be seen as a bird, as an eagle, and not a
yeah,
parrot.
yeah. Yeah, the whole slow walk after he took out Flurry's team was just that was so epic.
You
That
you know what thought came to my mind during that slow walk?
was that.
I was like, yeah, this is the world we live in. Everyone watching this right now is like, yay, CGI bird. Yet a few months ago when we were watching Fantastic Four, we were like, no, a CGI baby.
For sure.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
yeah, that is the world we live in. But you're right. So I watched the episode. I watched it Thursday when it first aired, and then I watched it again because I will say my initial impressions of Flurry were I was I it it didn't work for me at first. I have to be honest.
Mhm.
But when I watched it the second time, I was like, okay, I get it. Um, I see why I see why this character is here, and the humor definitely landed for me the second go round. But also, maybe too, it's just the way Tim Meadows like the here the Flurry character, at least this way he speaks and talks, reminds me of someone I know in real life. So maybe that was kind of like, and the thing is, the guy that I'm talking about, the personality is 1,000% different from what the Flurry character is like, but just the mannerisms and the speaking tones, it's just like it was like, oh God, I feel like it's my colleague here, but it's not. But
He, his the performance he gives, and I
mhm,
think this is why I liked it.
yeah.
It's the DC version of Michael Scott from The
Mm,
Office.
mhm.
Like, no, no, Flurry isn't the man in charge who should have never been promoted, but Flurry is the one, the kiss ass, who's like, he's like a Dwight.
Yep.
But in his humor and
Mm.
giving all of those nicknames like your
Oh yeah.
titties and
Yeah. Yeah. He kept
everything.
yeah,
Yeah.
titties
He
demoting the guy from like,
I forget what they all were,
yeah.
but there are moments when he is in charge and it's clearly like, oh, this is the last person you want to be following into anywhere, and the whole bird blindness, that's such a um it's an office type joke, and
Yeah.
it kind of brings this show back into a office workplace comedy,
Hmm.
but with superheroes and superhero elements,
Yeah.
that we felt a lot during the first season. But right now, our main crew, they're kind of not a crew, and we kind of see that towards the end with the party. But I think between that and then having Adrian Chase, okay. Okay, I'm just gonna say the line that honestly, come on, give this man a raise. I'm into sex because it's an opportunity to bond with my best friend. Fast forward 5 minutes, and then he's clearly bonding with his best friend while dismantling his best friend's doppelganger's body.
Yeah.
and see, and see, there's a difference. Last week we were talking about how the orgy in particular, it leaned
Mhm.
into more of that Gen V and the boys type of
Mhm.
grotesque humor, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
But for whatever reason, what they were doing in that whole sequence felt very Peacemaker, and I think that's because of all the work they've done with those 2 characters in particular during the
Yeah.
first season. Like, you couldn't have that scene work, I don't think, in the first season because Vigilante is such a wild card,
Yeah.
and then you realize how much of a psychopath he is, and then it's like, but he's a lovable psychopath because he clearly has no friends.
Yeah.
He just wants to be with his best friend, and he is trying to get another best friend, but he's working real hard on Economos.
Yeah. Well, see, when I heard whenever, yeah, and when I heard that when Adrian said that, and I couldn't help me to again, and since I did rewatch the first season right
Mhm.
before the second. I thought about the scene where he, Chris, and the pissed off housewife had a threesome.
Right.
And so now when he says so, it made, to your point, it made that scene land in this episode land work because of all the foundation that they made. And then also just whenever Chris was in the whenever he made the call, not to come over for the orgy, but to come over and clean up the mess from this dead body.
Mhm.
It just so many things about it. Yeah, it works, it felt like an earned moment whenever
Yeah.
when he said that line.
Yeah. And we didn't linger on it too
Nope.
much. Um, and I think from the humor side, look at me trying to be positive. I think we didn't linger too much, and that's why the humor stood out. While
Hmm.
the dramatic parts, and I'm talking about hardcore in particular, it ain't
Yeah.
working for me, Will.
Mm.
It's not working for me, not just because, and I know it's only been 2 episodes, I get it. But I just am like, "Oh, we're still doing this. Okay." But between her, it was kinda nice because Adebayo didn't get a lot of scenes in the first episode, so to have the whole scene between her and her ex,
Hmm.
because, I mean, that's clearly what their whole fight and everything, but in a weird way, that could have been easily in the first episode. Like, a part of me, while I was watching this and when I realized that the eagerly fight sequence was like the third act, I was like, "Oh my god.
Yeah.
What are we doing?" This felt like part 2 of the first episode
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
weird way, and a weird epilogue, and I'm like, "But I wanted to get into the second episode because the way things ended, um, it just left you in this moment, and then it felt more like, yeah, that happened, but we're gonna circle back around on all of these other things and explore all of these other character beats before
Hmm.
we return to that. And oh yeah, we're not really gonna get back into that until the third episode.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the hardcore stuff. Um, so when that scene happened, and I did like it in the sense of, as far as this framing, because it did, but I mean, yeah, I mean, it was on the nose as far as who, that the abuse is a very is self it's a, it's self abuse, or self, um it's because, he used domestic violence as a way to, like, show that, abuse can come in many forms or fashions. um and so, and with Harcourt's case, whenever she went to the bar, she is in that destructive mode. And whereas, you know Chris will drown his sorrows in drugs and sex and booze. Harcourt will drown her sorrows and, going out picking bar fights and stuff. So, I mean, it was, so I guess he was, showing how these two individuals are mirrors of one another. Um, and I guess Chris is like, he is slowly growing out of that pattern that he used to be in. Whereas I think Harcourt is, like, going deeper into that hole that Chris used to be in.
Yeah,
That deeper hole where, where she's just, like, doing more and more, like, things to, like, self harm herself,
I
you know.
I think
Yeah.
that everyone's giving Chris too much of a you're growing and maturing.
Oh, I mean, if you
I
look at it
I
from
I
season one
think
to two, he's definitely. I mean, I'm not saying he's like,
I think he is on a self-destructive path now just as much as she is.
hmm,
And I think that but but also what you just talked about though, you told me last week as well. So I'm like, that's my point. This
yeah, yeah.
A
Oh,
lot of these things felt like James Gunn already wrote about in the first
yeah,
episode. So
yeah,
it felt repetitive
yeah.
to
It
to
did.
go back on them. Um and and it doesn't feel like to go to the domestic violence thing, and it's not because we know what happened. But I think that was more as the how people view her. Like she
Hmm.
keeps saying in all these scenes, I'm not a glass doll, I'm not a glass doll. Because for anyone who does not know Harcourt,
Yeah.
you look at her like that woman did, and yeah, you say, oh, somebody's being abused by a man
Hmm.
or a
Hmm.
partner of sorts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the only way. But hardcore has made it her whole life to not be viewed in that way, and she's finding herself now, given her circumstances, like, I'm becoming the person I'd never wanted to be, and
Yeah.
people are looking at me like I never wanted them. They're looking at me like I need to be helped.
Hmm.
um and and so I totally get that. I don't know. I feel like what he could have done to make this episode much more interesting and not feel so repetitive is, okay, you we get this fight with Adebayo and her ex. Like
Yeah.
we could have got more Adebayo. Like
Yeah.
her whole situation with her mom, we still don't really know what's going on there.
True.
Um we could have gotten, but there are characters that we could have gotten, we did not get a lot of in the first episode. And I'm not talking about Adrian Chase because I thought he was used perfectly in this episode.
Hmm.
But there's a lot of toys. So I feel like with Harcourt in particular, she's sticking out because um these first two episodes, it's like, okay, we're still doing this.
Yeah.
Okay. So and then arguably at this simultaneously, because Chris is so like they're entangled together, I'm also feeling a bit like, oh great, we're back to Peacemaker's storyline. Like I don't know. I know we're gonna get into some good stuff.
Yeah.
And this is just, but it's annoying this early to already be like, okay, we're still doing this.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree. I mean, if they, as far as scheduling these episodes, I mean, this was one of those situations where it probably would have been okay if they had dropped the first two together.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I think because yeah, I mean the 11th Street kids did have their bonding moments and everything, but I but it was I mean they didn't really advance things more other than just I mean I guess with Chris it was just like okay when he was in the alternate whenever they were dismembering his doppelganger
Hmm.
the doppelganger's phone fell out of his pocket and he got the cell phone and stuff and so once he you know went back into that dimension um he sent the message went through and he sent the broken heart emoji and stuff so but again it wasn't anything new it was just sort of like it just I guess added a layer to something that we already know that that and we'll just sort of and it was really I guess the final little setup piece for okay, I'm gonna stick around in this universe for now. There were a couple of things that we did learn about the Chris and in the Chris the dead Chris, I guess Chris too. He definitely has a substance. He but I guess he's also very similar to his Prime Universe counterpart, which is they both have issues with substance abuse because
Yeah.
dad yells out, "You pop, you taking pills again?"
Yeah.
So,
They're
yeah.
they are teasing these alternate versions,
Hmm.
and we're just they we're just eager to get there.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
bring it
I'm ready.
on.
Bring
Let's
it on. Yeah.
understand that world more, and what it's truly like, and just see how this all unravels going forward. But well, all right. That is it for us tonight. Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me on all the socials at Will M Polk, WILLMPOLK.
You can find me there too at SJ Belmont, SJBLMONT. Please follow our crew on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Scene and Nerd, on Blue Sky. Friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram and threads at scene_ed_nerd. And visit our website, www.sceneandnerdpodcast.com. But most importantly, rate, follow, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.